Welcome to Bump Set Chat, the podcast where volleyball professionals come on and share their stories, experiences, and advice. And today, from Bay Volleyball Club, I have Matt Houlihan. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, happy you're here. So the way we start things off is we do a few random questions. So are you ready?
Lightning round. Let's go.
All right. You're walking into a room, and what TV show or movie are you stopping to watch?
Ted Lasso.
Excellent. Yep. Are you excited that there's a new season they're recording?
I am. Yeah, absolutely. I think Ted Lasso is such a great... I think any coach probably has now watched Ted Lasso by now, but just so many good lessons watching Ted Lasso in terms of what a coach can be.
Second question. Favorite place you've ever played volleyball in?
Stan Sheriff Center, Hawaii. It's just the Madison Square Garden version of men's volleyball. So tons of fans. They know their volleyball. So I played there when I was at University of the Pacific. So I had the opportunity to play there actually 2 times throughout my career. And each time just such a special place. Close second would be the Smith Fieldhouse in BYU.
Okay.
So just two great men's volleyball environments for the U.S.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of Hawaii guys on, and they just talk about that environment. It's so amazing. And then Keone, who played at BYU this following season, he talked about that environment. And the other one that I really would like to get to one day is the Stand.
Yeah.
Or is that the Stand? No. What's the Pyramid?
The Pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pyramid's Pyramid's a little bit smaller, but in terms of actual kind of ambiance of the venue, the Pyramid is up there for sure because they now pack it, right? They've had a lot of good seasons, so they've got the fan base that's in there, and so it's loud. But then the Pyramid itself is just such an anomaly. Funny story of us being inside the Pyramid watching a game. So we were watching the TJ DeFalco era. The best thing that the Pyramid has that just separates itself from everything else is the sandbar. Have you heard of the sandbar?
No.
So it's a literal courtside bar, and they're serving beer, seltzer, all the good stuff right there. And you're basically on the end line, and they've got all the stands around you. And but just what a better spot to be able to just sit down on a bar stool, grab a beer, and you're just watching some really high level volleyball.
Next question. So what 2 volleyball legends need to come over and play on the baby court?
Ooh, who I want to challenge?
What 2 legends need to come over for like a celebrity volleyball match at your baby court?
Okay.
That you would stream live. Pay-per-view maybe.
I'd love to play against. So my immediate pick is my buddy Dustin Watton. I need to challenge Dustin. Dustin's been to the house before. He is a good dude, and I think I could take him. He's undersized as the libero. He's got the ball control. I think he could dig a lot, but man, I don't think he's got what it takes to take me down on the jam and wipe, and then to go to the next level of challenge. I think one of the Worsley brothers, and they're local too. They're NorCal boys. I think one of them, I think that's like the baby court championship right there. They are some of the best baby court players around. So getting one of them on, I think that would be a real heavyweight bout. So yeah. Gage or Joe, this is the personal invitation / challenge to come on down to Casa Houlihan. Play some baby court. Yeah.
Awesome. There we go.
There's your clip, social clip right there for you.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's go to the beginning. So where are you from?
So I'm from San Jose in Northern California. So right where our club is. Of course. God, Barry, I'm killing you. What is happening to me here?
All right, there we go.
Maybe it's my let me hop off of this. I'm using my cell phone as the camera, so maybe it's that. Let me get out of here and go straight to the MacBook. We'll lose some video quality and we'll go good. Right here. All right, yeah. All right. I'm from San Jose, so I'm a Northern California kid, born and raised. My parents were at Santa Clara University as basketball players. So my grandpa was a basketball coach there, so they've been around here in this area for a long time. My wife's from Washington D.C., so she's an East Coast girl. So when I was looking to play, I always wanted to play at Stanford, as any Bay Area or NorCal kid wants to go to Stanford when they're up here. But my grades were not quite at that level. So I went to University of Pacific in Stockton, which is Northern California town as well, just over in the Central Valley.
All right. So, and when did you start? When did you discover volleyball?
So I discovered volleyball through my brother. I'm the youngest of three. My brother played all the sports. I played basketball competitively, baseball, soccer, literally everything except for volleyball. I always thought it was a girl sport. Like that was just my assumption.
Yep.
And my brother picked it up in grade school. We were lucky enough to go to a grade school in one of the few grade schools in NorCal at the time that had boys volleyball as a sport. So he picked it up in fifth, sixth grade, and then I started playing with him a little bit, but didn't really want to like play club or play competitively. And then I did one school season when I was in fifth grade, so that I was lucky enough to kind of pick it up then. That was my introduction to it. So my brother then played on the very first Beta Bay team ever. So he started playing club more competitively before I was even aware of it. And then it all kind of snowballed from there for me and just following him around to tournaments and then starting to actually play competitively.
All
So
right. And then, looking back all these years, what is the hook volleyball has on you that's turned into, a career and a passion? And now you were head of the Bay Volleyball Club, which is a great route for young volleyball players to, appreciate the skill and hopefully move on in life playing the game.
yeah, I mean, volleyball just was so much fun for me right away. I think there was a degree where I've always been like athletic. I've always played sports and so just love being around games. And I am the youngest child of three. And so there was an immediate competitiveness of just being the smaller kid of trying to keep up with your older siblings and beat them at whatever you possibly could, whether it was a board game or a sport. And I think pretty quickly I realized that volleyball came a little bit more naturally to me. It was probably the fact that I just had played it a little bit more than most kids my age because of my brother.
Yeah.
And once I then realized, oh, I'm getting pretty darn good at volleyball, like way better than the guys that are around me. And I'm playing basketball at the same time, and I'm getting kind of clobbered in basketball. I was a center in basketball, and I was 5'8" and just getting smoked by these kids who played AAU travel
Right.
ball, just like I was playing more volleyball. And so I think I just took a liking to the fact that I also was winning more
Hmm.
playing that game, and it was something that was my little niche of a sport that I was good at. There was also a degree where I was like, I got to play with a lot of cute girls, and I enjoyed that aspect also, right? So there
Yeah.
was some good benefits as a kid where I was like, this sport is a ton of fun. And then it spiraled when I found beach volleyball as well. So just getting to drive over the hill and go to Santa Cruz and spending weekends at the beach and just being out there for half of a day and just coming home with pockets full of sand and just a sunburned cheeks and just but having like the best time ever.
Yeah.
There was so much nuance and culture to the sport that it really they just kept getting layers and layers and layers of the game that I just fell in love with.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as an 18-year-old going into college, thinking about trying to be around sports, what better sport to be around than the one that I fell in love with as a kid. So
Yeah.
it all just continued. I just kept finding what that next step was, or it found me probably was more of the accurate story.
Yeah.
And so that was the degree where volleyball kind of really sank its teeth into me, and I just never got rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one great thing about volleyball. I don't think other sports can do. Like you can play this in a co-ed competitive space, whether it's like reverse co-ed, play
Yeah.
it on the beach, you can modify the rules, twos, threes. And like even in our little town, we have a Tuesday night volleyball where there's like, there's a couple other dads that their daughters come and play. And it's just, I don't know any sport that you could do that.
Yeah, it is unique. I think VNL, FIVB at the top level and AVP, you can kind of tell from their new league format. They're trying to lean into that more. You can tell that is such a unique aspect of volleyball, right? Where it truly is a female-led sport from the participation standpoint. But at the highest levels of the game, both men's and women's, it's so entertaining to watch for different reasons.
Absolutely.
And being able to kind of blend those two things together is I don't think we have the true market fit yet of what that looks like, but it's really cool to see what some of these sports are trying to do to try and leverage those two things together of just having such a strong female presence from the volleyball perspective, but
Yeah.
also then having such a high level men's volleyball presence, even though the numbers are going to be smaller in terms of reach or viewership or even just participation.
Yeah.
So yeah, very unique for volleyball.
Yeah, and that's the one interesting part. Like it seems like in the state side, the women's game is more popular, but once you go outside the states, it's sort of like the men's game is sort of the pop, where you see the crowds and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely infiltrated across Europe. Specifically, Poland, you can see just it's like the national sport. And women's volleyball is still huge, respectively, across all the continents, pretty much except for USA from a professional standpoint. But even from the women's side, that's being proliferated on USA soil now. But yeah, the men's game, there's a reason why everyone goes overseas to play, is because that's where the viewership is, and therefore that's where the money is.
Yeah.
And so it's you can see that there is a market for it. It's just a matter of how do we actually present it from an American standpoint
Yeah.
in a way that makes it uh, takes it to that next level. I think that's a lot of what you're starting to see from all of the pro leagues around the women's side,
Yeah.
and the men's perspective from AVP of how they're trying to kind of market it in a way that makes it even more unique from the big four leagues that are playing in the US to kind of the again, I think it all kind of comes back to that cultural aspect of volleyball, of how different and unique it is from the beach side. And it's also kind of there's a party aspect to volleyball as
Yeah.
well, where it's just such a tight knit community of people, and finding ways to really leverage that into, like, how do we get that on TV? How do
Yeah.
you get that broadcast across the country?
Well, like you even said it, like, you thought it was a girl sport, and I still think men's volleyball still fights that stipulation, or that, that sort of like, oh yeah, it's a girl sport, but it's really not.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I that was my thought as a 12-year-old, and
Yeah.
I think for me, so much of what I've done when I was a player to what I do now is exactly that. It's not just to, like, I don't think it's something where I think we've come a long way for boys volleyball and men's volleyball, where it's not so much seen as a truly as a girl sport, but it's really just trying to bridge the gap of what Americans see as a true sport. Right? I'll post a video recap of something. I'll still get people in the comments being like, "Why is this guy playing volleyball? Like, he should be playing basketball, or he should be playing this," because that's just what is so known to
Hmm.
everyone in the States, because that's the sports that we see, right? And so a lot of it is the idea of how do we bridge that gap and kind of showcase volleyball in a way that shows the amazing parts of the sport, both the athleticism, the skill, but also the culture. And
Yeah.
that's the other piece that I think it continues to kind of be the secret sauce that isn't the easiest to just throw on TV and make it make sense.
Right.
Right? There's a lot of things with volleyball that I feel need to change to make it more of a TV friendly product, but there's so many good things about it right now that you can still get a pretty far away with the product that we put on TV for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, after college or after high school, you ended up at, talked about University of Pacific. What made you pick that school?
So, interesting story. I had paid my deposit to UC Santa Cruz. I had no clue what college recruiting was. I thought if I play good, they'll find me. And my team was good. We beat Micah Christensen and Taylor Crabb in our 17s division to win a bronze medal. So we played some really high level teams and we won. And I was like, oh, the offers are coming. Like, this is it. Not at all. That's not how it works. Just did no work. Didn't reach out to anyone. Learned a lot as a junior in or junior in high school. So from there, I was thinking I might get an offer from somebody somewhere. I was talking to USC, but not really seriously when I look back on it. And so sure enough, no offers really came. And I paid my deposit to go to UC Santa Cruz. It was going to be a banana slug, go D3, which is a great route for many people. But I
Hmm.
really wanted to play Division One, and always had a chip on my shoulder to try and play at the highest level I could. And Jeff Hall was the assistant at Pacific, and I think it was probably like a late scramble, like they lost a recruit or something internationally, and they're like, "We need an outside hitter. We need somebody who's available." And he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, come on campus real quick. Like, just drive on over and come see us." And so a day later, I drove out with my parents and toured the campus and was like, "Oh, this is an amazing little school, right? It's a small private school in the middle of the Central Valley, but it's very much they like try to call themselves the Princeton of the West Coast,
Okay.
but it's like brick buildings and ivy everywhere, and it's just this very collegial feel." And I immediately connected with that. Whereas at UC Santa Cruz is a huge campus. It's a massive state school, which is great for some people, but I connected pretty quickly with just the smaller campus feel and the more like intimate experience rather than hiking up hills and all over the place through the Santa Cruz Mountains to get to class. I really liked the layout at Pacific, and obviously was drew to the fact that I got to play in the MPSF and take on Hawaii and
Right.
USC and UCLA and all these amazing schools that I wanted to recruit me but didn't recruit me, and wanted to prove them wrong. So
Nice. Yeah, just jumping back to the Taylor Crabb and Micah, playing against them. I had Taylor on, and I had no idea Taylor started out as a setter, and the only reason he wanted to be a hitter, the only reason he got to be an outside hitter, because Micah came to the team to
yeah.
set.
Yeah. Mind you, Micah was a freshman was a freshman playing up by like 3 years
Oh,
in that game that we beat him. So Micah did wonders beyond that loss. But no, yeah, that was a really good group. That group was super strong. I think probably six of their seven guys were all collegiate starters by the end of it, and yeah, it was a really strong group for them, and really cool to see kind of their stories unfold as well
yeah.
as a bystander, both as playing career, but also just professionally, kind of how they advance themselves. So it was fun to watch that little connection from back when we were kids to where they're at now.
Yeah. And then at your time at University Pacific, what are some of the things you took away from those years? What are some of the highlights for you? You said going to Hawaii, playing at Hawaii is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. We lost a lot, Barry. Barry, we lost a lot at Pacific. But we learned some really good lessons. When I was a freshman, we won one conference game. We beat UCLA at UCLA for the
Wow.
final match of the season, and that was our only conference win. From there, we slowly but surely we made some improvement. I think we won 5 games my sophomore year conference in the conference. We ended up 500 by the time it was my senior year. So it was a lot of just understanding how to build culture and how to change a dynamic.
Hmm.
And, a lot of credit goes to the coaches on that, but also just the players that were really bought in. And we're not the top program, and so getting a number one recruit isn't going to be a thing that happens at UOP, but you can get a group of really hardworking people together and you make a good unit and a good team, and great things happen. I think I learned a ton culturally from Pacific, both from volleyball, but also even just Greek life, being in the Greek life at Pacific. There's so many really positive experiences that we got building the community around what we do. And we carry a lot of that into Beta Bay. And then obviously academically as well. I was a sport management major. It was funny. The first assignment I did at Pacific, I took an intro to sport management class. So it's like the very fundamental basic class. And the first assignment was call someone who has the job that you want and interview them. And they gave you had 20 questions that you needed to ask them. So sure enough, I called Julie Keller, who was then the club director at Beta Bay, and asked her the 20 questions and told her that this is my assignment and that I want your job one day. And
Oh,
so
shoot.
fast forward, we get there a little bit further, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was academically a really good experience that kind of helped prepare me. Nothing truly prepares you once you get out of college, but
Right.
there was a lot of really good things in my education at UOP that I still use today. Actually, one of my favorite professors is on our board of directors at Beta Bay, and so he's been an awesome resource just to be able to ping ideas off of and stay in touch with.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. Now, me being that ignorant Canadian growing up, thinking, oh, all college sports, there's all scholarships. I didn't know men's volleyball, today is 4.5 scholarships. When you were going to school, was it the same amount of scholarships, or was it different?
yeah, 4.5. Yeah, so same. It was the same situation. So definitely a no one was really going on a full ride. It was a lot of shared
Yeah.
scholarships. I was all academics, and so I didn't have any athletic money in that sense. And that was the most majority of guys. And that's one of the things that I think uh, volleyball has going for itself in terms of pushing for growth across the United States is schools can see men's volleyball as a enrollment growth tool, right? So
Hmm.
being able to add men's volleyball from an enrollment perspective, you've got a lot of people who are paying full boat to go.
Right.
And so that's where a lot of conversations that we've had conversations with schools about what that growth curve looks like, and that's one of the big factors that administrators really like, is that you can bring in actual growth from a dollar perspective from your enrollment using men's volleyball. But obviously, many things that can change there with upcoming, if they go to 18 scholarships and so on and so forth.
Right.
But for the time being, that is a positive for men's volleyball.
Yeah. And then, after college, what sparked your interest in coaching? Was it a gradual shift, or did someone or something inspire you to take that leap?
Yeah, I come from a family of coaches. So, right, my grandpa was the basketball coach at Santa Clara for decades. He then became the athletic director at Santa Clara University after he was done coaching. So he actually, shout out to Canada, he recruited Steve Nash to come play
Oh,
basketball at Santa Clara. So that was his claim to fame. So I grew up going to Santa Clara basketball games, watching him coach. I was the sweat wiper, and I would throw T-shirts into the crowd when they scored a 3-pointer. My dad was a football coach, golf coach, basketball coach. He did everything. He played basketball at Santa Clara along with my mom. My mom was my middle school athletic director, and she would coach teams. And so I was just always around sports. Always knew that I wanted to be in sports, and I didn't want to sit behind a desk
yeah,
and do anything else. I just wanted to be around sports. And so my family is probably the greatest role models ever from a coaching
yeah.
perspective. Just showing me the ropes. Even when I didn't even realize it that they were coaching me, they were coaching me constantly. So I've been very lucky in that. So definitely it's always been, I wouldn't say in the genes, it's just been in the water, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just the Kool-Aid that I drank from a kid. Get on. Like what cooler job could you have?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Now,
that's the genesis of it.
and when did you dip your toes in coaching? Was it at Beta Bay or prior to that?
Yeah, yeah. I started coaching at Beta Bay when I was a freshman. So every summer coming back from college and playing, I would coach at Beta Bay. Started by assisting a ones team, and then Julie gave me a head coach job the next year, and head coached my first team, like a threes team. And slowly but surely just started, yeah, just always coaching camps. Um, I worked with John Wallace. When he was the head coach at Santa Clara women's volleyball, I was his intern for a summer and was coaching all their camps and helping him kind of run those things. And so just always trying to be in the gym, helping out wherever possible, has been just a part of what I do. And so that's when it started. And I knew very quickly, like, this doesn't really make a bunch of money, but it's a ton of fun. And
Hmm.
so trying to balance the want to support myself, but also be able to do something that I really enjoy. So
Yeah.
that's where it started, and it progressed drastically from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've discovered talking to all these coaches is like it's not an easy career. You either have to coach multiple teams at the club level, volunteer to even get your foot in the door, and then if you're an assistant coach, that's yearly contracts. You may not have
Yeah.
multiple years, and then if you're trying to start a family, it's not easy.
No, no, it's not. I've been lucky that literally the only dollars I've ever made have come, like my only salary I've ever gotten has come from coaching. And it running the club is obviously different than coaching
Yeah,
coaching a team. Most of the coaches that we have in our club, we have 4 full-time coaches, and then we have everyone else works a tech job, right?
yeah,
And they just love volleyball and want to be a part of it. So that was the other path that I was looking at, was being involved in some form of a tech company, a startup, or something along those lines, but still wanting to coach club. And then when the Beta Bay opportunity to take over came about, that's when I was like, maybe this is my startup, and it's just volleyball as a startup, and that's
yeah.
a really fun idea.
Nice. And then I also saw you, speaking of volunteering, you were volunteering coaching at Stanford. How was that experience, and how did you get involved there?
Yeah, 9 years. I coached at Stanford for 9 years as the volunteer. I cracked the joke, speaking of money, of every year Costi would add a zero to my contract, and I just kept on stacking up zeros. But I got involved with Stanford. This is now 10 years ago that I first started. Um, John's son, Cameron, played in our club. And so I knew John just being a player, being an athlete. And then when I took over the club, reaching out, and he was always very supportive and helpful. And they couldn't get a volunteer assistant at Stanford just because it was so hard, because no one could afford to live there without, doing another job.
Right.
And for me, after getting my feet settled and Bay to Bay in a much more stable and better place than we first took over, that season, that high school season where our club season takes a break essentially, except for our little guys, our 14-year-olds, that's a wide open season for me. And so John actually had just reached out to me right before the season was about to begin 10 years ago, and was like, "Hey, you know, I'm looking for a volunteer assistant. We just can't get one, but would you be interested in coming in to coach?" And it was an interesting time because I was looking for something to fill that time, and I was
Hmm.
looking for something that would be good for the club and for my career. And I always wanted to coach, and I was interested in college coaching. But I actually was interviewing for a head boys high school job at the time, and I was all in on it. It was a Bellarmine College Prep, which is a big school in our area. And I lost, or I didn't get the job. I was a finalist and didn't get it. Another guy got it. And I was feeling down. And literally that next week is when John reached out and was like, hey, you think about being the volunteer assistant? I was like, that sounds awesome. So sure enough, came in and just got to be a part of the program. And John, just such a welcoming help, right? Like I call him the greatest boss because I was the volunteer and I tried to come to as many things as I could.
Yeah.
When I first took over, I had no kids, or when I first took that job, I had no kids, and it was just me and the club. And my wife Ariel's dad was a college coach, so she gets that life, which can be a pretty challenging life. I'm sure you've talked to some college coaches about that dynamic. But I got the best of both worlds, where when I could be there, I was there, and I got to be all in. And when I had a conflict, it was very understanding, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't getting paid anything, so they knew it was okay. And so it was a really fun experience to get involved and get back to that level of play, like scratching that itch of competing at the highest level, preparing for the highest level teams in the country is such a fun, exhilarating experience. Going on the travel trips, right? Getting back into what I love doing as an athlete and doing it as a coach, and just trying to really plug into the people around you is I got so much more out of it than I think I gave.
Yeah.
And so I'm really grateful for the years I got to spend there, and made some really incredible friendships with staff. I've got Daniel Rasai, who was the longtime assistant there. He stopped coaching at Stanford maybe 3 seasons ago. He now works with me at Beta Bay, and he's just such an incredible coach. Mason DeFunga was a Stanford player. When he was playing at Stanford in the summers, he would come coach for us, and now he's one of our full-time staff members as well. And so just been so lucky I'd call it like the who luck, just the people that I got lucky to be involved with in that setting was so unique and so special. So getting to be a part of that program that I, as a kid, wanted to be a part of so bad, and getting to kind of go back and be in that situation, to be able to contribute in a small way, but in a way that hopefully found some impact on guys that were there, was a very, very fulfilling thing for me.
Nice. And then looking back at that time there, what were some of the valuable lessons you took away from that opportunity?
I think I learned a lot more just about the college game, right? About what college coaches need and what they're looking for, which benefits the club, right? Just understanding that college coach perspective. And there's so much to say about it. It's all about who you know. And so I got to meet so many of these college coaches, and so it was an interesting dynamic because I ran a club in Northern California that a lot of teams were recruiting from as well, but I was also a coach at Stanford, and so there was this constant crossover from fall preseason tournaments to traveling throughout the season. So just getting to build some relationships there and really understand each of the schools and kind of how they do things. And so there was a really unique experience because I would take, before this rule changed, you're not allowed to do this anymore, but back in the day we used to run a travel trip before some of these LA events where we would go and take our kids that wanted to. They could sign up and just join us, and we would go tour like 8 different college campuses. We'd go to UC Irvine, we went to USC, Pepperdine, UCLA, and like those coaches would then walk our, call it 15, 20 Beta Bay kids around, and kind of they do the tour like they would do it for an individual recruit. And I got to sit in on those, and so I got to go sit in Marv Dunphy's office and listen to him give his spiel and his talk, and talk about the history, and do his whole thing. And I got Sprague got to walk us around at UCLA. He'd just taken the job, and he's walking us through the facilities and talking about his time as a student there. And so some really cool experiences that allowed me as a club director, but also then as a college coach. I selfishly got to go back to Stanford and be like, dude, like, David Niffen at UC Irvine is killing it on the recruiting. Like, this is what he does. It was so cool. He did such a great job with the kids in this aspect. Like, can we do something like that? And so there was a lot of crossover where I think some people probably were like, are you a spy? Like, are you telling Costi all of my recruiting secrets? And I was like, not the good ones, but like the great ones. Yes, absolutely. Because those are things we want to steal, all out of respect. So yeah, it was a very fun dynamic to get to learn a lot of different ways people handle themselves and kind of go through that process, both as a club side and as a college side.
Nice. All right, so let's dive back. So you played at Beta Bay as a kid, coached there, and now you're the director. What was your path to stepping into that role of taking over the club and let's do good things with it?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. So I was coaching at Beta Bay when I was in college, right? You heard the story of me calling Julie up, the former director, and saying, basically, I want your job. She had always joked. Julie took over Beta Bay for her son, Brad. So Brad started the club back in 2000. My brother and his little brother were that original team. And so he started it for them. And he was, just out of college, figuring out what he wanted to do. And he was running two teams basically. And it grew and people really liked it. And so it went from two teams to four and four to six. When I was coaching there, they had 10 teams. So it was one of those things where Brad was doing it, and then he got the call from USC to go be the men's assistant coach. So he left for the USC assistant job, and Julie took over. And Julie was retired. She was a PE teacher that was retired, and she loved it and she did amazing things with it, but she also wanted to be done. She was like, I'm retired. I want to go back to being retired. And so the kind of genesis of it was throughout the years, she would joke when I was coaching of, when are you taking this over? When are you taking this over? And so finally my junior year summer, I'm back there and I'm coaching, and Brad Keller is back and he's coaching at Santa Clara. So he's local. So I'm getting to spend a lot of time with him because I'm working at Santa Clara, as well as the intern. And so we were just having deeper conversations about what it would look like when I graduate, if it would be possible for me to take over. And slowly but surely, I think Julie gave me some more responsibility, and she kind of tested the waters to see if I could handle it. And I apparently didn't mess it up too bad. So she actually did agree after my senior year that I would come on as the assistant director for basically one summer, and then I would take over the club with my then girlfriend, Ariel, and we would run from there. And so it was kind of baptism by fire for
Hmm.
sure. I was just excited to get in and wanted to do stuff, and I knew I knew how to coach. I've always had that natural feel. Ariel, whose parents ran the club she played for, she's been seeped in this as well, and she's like, "You have no clue what you're getting into. Like, this is all consuming. It's ridiculously hard." At the time, Beta Bay was there was a club that broke away from Beta Bay, and that they were dominating
Oh,
Northern
okay.
California. And so we weren't very good either. So we were taking over a club that had a name and had been around for 10 plus years, but we weren't very good anymore. And so we were stepping into a new battle. And I naively basically said, I still want to do it, so I'm going to do it. And Ariel was going to go get a tech job in the Bay Area, and she very quickly realized that I was drowning, and so she luckily hopped in, and she really saved me those first 3 years while I was figuring out how to actually run a club and lead and manage more than just my team.
Hmm.
And so that was the real turning point. There was our ability to basically just stay afloat those first few years, which we had a lot of really, really good help from Ariel's parents who'd done it for a while, and,
Yeah.
and just like John Costi as well, being very supportive. And it was a good group of people that were around to help us and assist us as we really kind of got into the club management and
Yeah.
business side. So
Ah, very cool. And now how different is the club from where you played as a kid to today? The culture the same, or was
it's
there a
very
culture
different.
shift?
It's very different. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's similar. We use a lot of the same gyms, ironically. Like I get so many memories when we go into practices of playing at these gyms as a kid, just the nostalgia that I'll get. But a lot of things have changed. The things that are similar when I played, we always practiced on the weekends,
Hmm.
Saturdays and Sundays. So our teams were always then. We had nothing during the week. And the reason they did that was gym calendars are always just more open on the weekend. But also, we had kids that would drive from, you know, Monterey, Santa Cruz, Sacramento, that would come pretty far. And so you avoid those weeknight practices. So we still keep that because we still have so many kids that come from all over to play. But we've added, basically, throughout the years, we've tried to add things that we wish we had when we were playing. That's
Yeah.
all. That's literally the mindset I always stepped into at the beginning. It was like, what did I wish that I had? And so we added skills practices. So we did position specific stuff. And my wife started that one. She was like, the first thing that I wanted when I was a kid was my setters practice. So she
Hmm.
was a setter. She had a great setters coach in her club back in DC. And so she added that for Beta Bay, and that went really well. Kids loved it, parents loved it. It was giving us another day throughout the week, so we weren't going 5 days without touching the ball. So then we added pin hitters practice, then we added middles practice, then we added liberos practice, and so we grew everything from there in terms of programming. And then we just kind of kept going down the list of like, all right, what else did we want as a kid? I wanted something more structured for beach volleyball. So we added a beach volleyball club. And so our beach volleyball club is now the largest boys beach club in the country with over 150 kids
Wow.
playing. And so we just have these, what was next? Okay, well, when I went into college, I wish I would have known how to actually lift weights. Great. Okay, let's get a strength and conditioning program together. And we just kept trying to add and stack these programs on top of each other of what we really wanted. And then there's a whole lot of culture of just, we've been lucky with the people that are in this club are our friends. And so it's, we had so many of our college friends and UOP people and guys that I played club with that came back. And it's just been a very close, tight-knit group of people that I think culturally that's one of the compliments we get a lot is just how close our staff is, but also then it kind of bleeds into our teams. Our teams all go out and they're constantly supporting each other and they know each other beyond just, our 18s kids go and cheer for the 12-year-olds
Right.
and the 12-year-olds go and cheer for the 18-year-olds. So lots of really cool experiences that got created just from kind of how we structured it from a practice perspective.
Yeah. Cool. And how would you describe first year Matt club director to current club director Matt?
Oh boy, how would I describe him? I was passionate. I still am passionate about it, but yeah, I was all energy, but not very narrow focused. I was trying to figure out how to do, there's 1,000 things that a club director needs to
Yeah.
do. And I was trying to figure out how to do all of them, and I wanted to do it to the best of my ability. But because I couldn't focus, I did a lot of things medium rather than, the right things
Mhm.
extremely well. So I think looking back at my perspective on first taking over the club, one of the biggest challenges for me is that I love people and I definitely had the tendency of being a people pleaser.
Mhm.
And this is a customer service and relationship business. So a lot of like the people pleasing stuff is good, but there's a balance
Yeah.
of knowing when you need to like take care of yourself, which for me, I was literally 21 taking over this club and taking care of myself. I was like, I'm invincible. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I don't need mental breaks. I don't need time off. What are we talking about? I just would work 7 days a week for 13-hour days and it wouldn't matter. I had no kids. I had a golden retriever who I just let outside. And my girlfriend, that was it. And she was doing it with me. And so I think I would look back and I'd say I was doing exactly what I needed to do, which is exactly how I've done most things in my life, which is jump right into it and figure it out on the fly. It's like it's the Silicon Valley trope, but you jump off the cliff and you build the airplane on the way down, and hopefully you build it in time before you crash.
Oh, nice. And now, if you could go back to first year Matt, club director, what would you say to him?
What I would say, I would say invest in your base, meaning when you first take over, we took over a club that had nine teams, and I coached our 16s team, which was truly like our only good team in the club at the time. And the mistake that I made was I was very focused on that team because that's what I knew. I knew how to coach a single team.
Yeah.
Um, when I talk to new club directors and people who are getting into it, I tell them the same thing, which is invest in your base. Start with your young kids because those are your kids that are just getting started. They don't know any better, right? The 16, 17s, and 18s kids that were in Beta Bay before, they knew the Julie Keller way of Beta Bay.
Yeah.
And I was never going to be Julie. And Julie was great at what she did, and I did things differently. But I was never going to be what they were used to. And so I needed to spend more time or needed to in those first few years to spend more time growing the base. And we did that through clinics and adding different stuff. But in reality, what I needed to do was to get young in my coaching. I needed to go younger and I needed to really invest in those groups because once you got them in and they had a great experience in the club, they were a part of the club and they didn't want to leave because there is a total lock-in effect with club volleyball where when you have a good experience, right, these become your best friends. They become the parents that you hang out with. It becomes part of your social life.
Right.
And so making sure that they have a good experience from the jump is an extremely important thing. And so I wish I would have spent more of my time in those first year in particular, really trying to make that experience at that age group the best I possibly could. Whereas we were just worried about trying to keep that one good team that we had together
Yeah.
in that changeover year, which, everything works out, everything worked out. But I definitely floundered a little bit more for the first probably 2-3 years
All
before
right.
figuring out the true need of getting down there and investing in those younger kids.
Yeah. All right. And I've talked to a couple other, club directors, people who club owners, and I had no idea the amount of cash that you have to outlay, whether it's for, tournament fees, figuring out the uniforms things. There's a lot of things that people don't realize what goes into being, owning a club or being a director. For you, what have been some of the struggles over the years? And I think you had the club before COVID too, and you had to deal with that aspect of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it totally is a startup. That's one of the things that I've loved about this job is that everything this is the greatest MBA I could have ever earned, right? Like this is better than any Harvard MBA, Princeton, does not matter. Stanford MBA, doesn't matter. I learned more in those first 3 years about how to run a business, about how to project your cash flow, to make sure you have enough on hand. Every aspect of our business we've gotten to dive into and figure out how we can make it the best possible thing for us and for the club, because every ounce of value that you can pull out of your business is value that you can then turn back to your customers. And that's a really, really cool dynamic when you think about it. So some of the examples of that would be like for us, for uniforms, one of the things the hardest things that we deal with as a club director is how we handle our uniforms. So we used to have to order from Nike. And so we would do, Nike runs on 3-year cycles. So anytime they do their team gear, Nike, Adidas, all of them do the same thing. They make the same product for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we would run a 3-year cycle for our uniforms. So rather than making families buy a uniform every year, we would do a cycle for 3. We'd match it with that Nike, programming that they would have. But in year 3, we realized, oh crap, Nike's not making any more of this, and now they're out of stock. And in this shirt that we were using, or these sweatpants that we were using. So now all of a sudden we're dealing with this inventory management. And so from there, once we learned that game, then we started our own clothing company to kind of handle that in-house. And so all these things that we learned about, like, hey, what are the things that we're spending a bunch of money on? How can we restructure it, bring it in-house to control it on our own and make sure that we have all of our gear, like my garage where we were originally. Is also the fulfillment center for our clothing company and the club, right? It's just stacked with boxes upon boxes of all of our gear, which then allows us to, the second we do tryouts, all of our kids can just do a sizing day, and then we're packing their bags the next day, right? So some clubs really worry about, they do tryouts and then they've got to order all their stuff, print it, and get it to them before the first tournament, whereas we have everything in-house. And the second we're done with tryouts and they're sized up, we're packing bags and handing it to them at their first practice. And so, that's just one example of like a vertical that we got to deal with and had to figure out how the hell does this work as a 21-year-old of like, I guess we got to go find a screen printer now. We got to go find, like, we need to order volleyballs. Who do we order volleyballs from? Like all of these things that you just don't kind of fully consider until you're in it and you need to figure it out and you solve that problem.
Wow. And now, the other aspect of this is, first of all, how many teams do you guys run, this past year?
We had 24 indoor teams.
Okay.
And then we do a local program that has about 120 local kids in it. And then our beach club has 150 kids. And there's crossover between the beach club and the indoor teams. But yeah, there's just under 600 unique members of a program for us last year.
Wow. So the one aspect, even here on the East Coast, clubs struggle with are coaches, finding good coaches, not just somebody with a heartbeat. How do you guys approach finding the coach and then developing them in your system?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think coaches is probably the number one dynamic for most clubs, right? Because in reality, that is your product when it comes down to it, is what is the coach experience going to be for each of your teams? And so for us, we're lucky we're in an area that is very heavy on job growth. And so we get a lot of people into our area because of tech jobs, right? You've got the Googles and the Metas and
Right.
Amazon, Apple. We pull a lot of people in from all over, and so there is a supply, right? And so that's one aspect. We have throughout the year a lot of what we do. We give our coaches a lot of freedom and flexibility to be able to coach the way that they want. And we don't really tell people like here's your handbook and your structure of how you must do things. We want them to be able to coach in the way that they feel most confident.
Yeah.
We do have our coaches come in at the beginning of the year and they come be a part of our skills practices. And so our lead coaches, myself, I run the pin hitters. We've got Ryan Smith who runs our middles. We've got Ariel runs setters. Those are for the whole club. We bring every kid basically gets to come to those sessions from 18s down to our 11s teams. They're in the gym together. And so our coaches start when they first start at the club, they join those sessions to begin with. So they kind of they'll get a sense of how we train each of the positions. And we, kind of run them through that just by osmosis. We don't like shove it down their throat, but through osmosis, like, hey, come be a part of this, show you how we're running it, show you how we're doing it. And then you can kind of take what you like and throw away what you don't and add in your own flair. For as years have gone on, we've added some more onboarding. So some of the specific things from like getting guys uploaded on payroll to how we sign up for additional coaching sessions, but then also kind of how we generally structure things.
Yeah.
Like the big thing that we harp to our coaches is we hate lines. There shouldn't be lines in our drills. Like we want our kids moving and playing as much as humanly possible. And if you're talking for more than 2 minutes and there's a big huddle for a big powwow that you just want to go on a tirade on, like you're doing something wrong. Don't do it during practice time. You can do it before, you can do it after. Your kids should be moving the entire time. When you've got your 2 hours, we want them contacting 1,000 plus volleyballs throughout the course of that practice. So that's the big one we always harp. And you can do whatever you want in terms of the skill or how you want to teach it or how you want to explain it. But if they're not moving, that's the only time that you're going to get like the hey, let's chat about that drill, or let's talk about how you structured that. Like, why are we doing one-sided hitting lines with you tossing rather than can we do a butterfly with the player setting? Can we? Yeah, those are the only times that all kind of step in, and that rarely happens. Just by being around the club and through osmosis, coaches will see kind of how we structure it from those big group sessions.
All right. And then in your opinion, what separates Beta Bay from the other clubs? What are some of the unique things you do for the players and the coaches and the parents?
I think I think there's a lot of really good clubs out there. I think we've been lucky that we've had great coaches. I think that's the number one thing is just we've been very lucky to bring in some really high quality human beings that care about the kids, that that understand volleyball, yes, but even more importantly, they really care about the athlete experience of what they get out of it. The programming that we do, I think, is a great complement. We've got a good formula going with the team practices and then our skills practices. That's one of when I hear from other coaches that they ask, like, how do you get your kids to go cheer for other teams, or why do your teams all seem so close? The skills practices are really important for us just because that's where you have crossover. Like you don't have, it's not just you and your team all season long. The 15 ones and 15 premier and 15 club guys are all in the gym together. And so that's what also makes it interesting when it comes to tryouts. Like we get to see those guys together, and when there inevitably is movement from premier teams up to ones teams and ones teams down to premier teams, it's not like you don't know anyone. I would guess that most guys know 90% of the kids on teams the second their teams are formed, just because they've been in the club for a while. We track the stat of how long an average tenure is for a Beta Bay player, and it's just under 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So about 4.7 years on average. Kids stay in the club, right? And a lot of kids pick it up at 14s, right? So they'll play their whole tenure from when they started to going all the way through in the club. And so that's a cool thing that we try and be aware of is there's a ton of value in getting kids in and letting them build that momentum season to season, because they know what we expect. They know how we teach things. They know how we train things. They know how to communicate and act, right? We talk a lot about like the non-volleyball soft skills. And so the more kids that you have that kind of buy into that and want to be a part of it, it spreads. And so it's that idea of osmosis. We just put those kids together in a room, and you're gonna get my dog's barking at me. You get more kids. You get more kids just like that kid,
Yeah.
right? So you do a good job keeping those kids that are truly what we would call like a beta bay archetype together. They're gonna create more beta bay archetypes just by being around them.
Yeah. And knowing, your average length you have with these kids and these families are 4 years, what have been some of the memorable moments that stick out over the years?
Some of the coolest moments have been when kids come back. So when we first took over the club, August 10th, 2013, that was the day that we signed the papers over the Keller signed the papers over to us. That day, drove home. I picked up the first phone call that we got as official club directors, and it came from a guy named Jason Smith, and his son Owen was 8 that year, and he had tried to come out to Beta Bay the year before, but Julie had told him 7 years old's too young. We don't have a program for you. We just started up a youth program, and immediately I'm like, absolutely, bring him in. Owen played in our club from when he was 8 till he was 18.
Oh, wow.
He was a freshman at Loyola Chicago this past year, and he came back and coached this year. And it was one of the saddest moments saying bye to him at his last nationals, and then one of my happiest moments of him coming back into the gym after a year of being at college. And Jason and Tanya, his parents, just amazing. Again, like they are the osmosis that you're looking for. Like they're the people that kind of represent what you want your parents to be like. And so kind of showing them and letting them be the parent examples in the club for 10 years was fantastic. But Owen came back this year, and Owen won. Owen probably is one of, if not the most decorated Beta Bay players of all time. He won, I think, 9 medals throughout his career. One gold, couple silvers, and multiple bronzes, but just a stud libero. And he came back and coached this year and won a bronze medal assisting our 16-1s team. And, just getting those relationships, like that was one of the hard parts of first starting out in the club. Was I was 21. I had no idea how to build a relationship with a 35 to 45-year-old parent.
Right.
I was just trying to like look professional enough that they would write a check.
Yeah,
to
the khakis on and the collared shirt.
I was wearing a collared shirt. Ariel would wear like would dress up. She'd wear heels. We were just trying to look older. We had no idea how to build a relationship, and so through time, the bigger thing that we've realized in some of the best moments have been those relationships with kids. John Cossey is another example. His son Cameron came to tryouts when he was 9 years old, and watching Cam go from our 12-2s team, just the littlest, tiniest child, to a legitimate men's volleyball player at UC Irvine now, and him coming back and just being around in the summer those are some of the best moments that you get to see. You see this full trajectory, and they watched us grow up, right? Like, Owen, just as much as we watched him grow up, his parents and he watched us grow up as club directors and adults. So those are the ones that you look back on of like, wow, those are the memories, and those are the reasons why this is the best job.
Yeah, nice. And then, when you have your teams like your 12s go to the 13s, do you guys start every year as a clean slate, or do you sort of have an idea of what that team next year looks like based on the data from previous years?
I mean, so yeah, we always start with the clean slate, but of course there's going to be, there's that core group of guys, and right. Generally speaking, which group of guys that you're looking to try and bring back. Yeah. We always do basically kind of progress reports of each kid at the end of the season. So the coach of the previous year will write a report on each kid for the next coach to be able to kind of get a dynamic of like, yeah, he did a great job, or hey, he struggled and he'd probably be better suited to get more playing time on this team. Yeah. So on and so forth. So there's always going to be a group of kids when there's teams rising up in our club that you're looking to retain and keep. And same thing, like you get an Owen Smith if there's a tie between a kid like Owen Smith who's been in the club for 9 years and another player that's brand new, you're gonna stay with that kid that you know. Right? Because they've been so loyal to your program. And I mean, we talk a lot about in the club volleyball world, it's people can get very upset because kids will change teams, and you felt like you had something. And when I was first starting out, I had that exact feeling. When a kid would leave, I was like so mad, being like, what did I do? I thought we were good. But it's kids, they're their families, and people want to, you have to make their own choices. But at the same time, we try and treat our athletes just like we would want them to treat us. And so when there's those conversations, you're always trying to take care of a quote kid that's in your club or a Beta Bay kid, if there is a tie. But at the same time, you're balancing, you're trying to build the most competitive teams, and that is when there's a player that is absolutely deserving of being on a top team, then you have those conversations and you try and handle them as best as you can with respect to that athlete and that family that's been there for a long time.
Yeah. All right. And now, hot topic, you said playing time. So I'm always curious to hear from different club directors on their approaches. Do you play like your ones team? Obviously, that's probably play to win. You want your best team. End of the day, your kids are, the coaching is really what it should be about, right? For you're developing the kids. But like when you look at your twos or threes teams, do you look at the three teams as sort of equal playing time? You're not really playing to win, maybe on the Sunday. How do you guys view sort of that aspect of volleyball?
Yeah, I guess there's a slight step scale, right, from ones down to twos, threes, fours. But the way that we talk to our coaches about it is the only time that we really are like trying to fully go out and win is nationals.
Yeah.
Everything else in your season, 97% of the season is about how you can develop your kids, how you can get each player to buy into a role on their team, how you can help them grow and develop. And so, yes, when you get to bigger tournaments, those are the times where you get to test all of your lineups, and you want to put kids in a situation where they are on the court and playing. And if they're struggling, you got to be able to make the call if you're subbing them out or if you're letting them fight through it. But throughout the course of the season, as long as our kids are doing what they're supposed to do from attending practices and being there, they're going to play. They're going to find a role. They're going to be on the team, and they're going to be playing in all of these events. And then when it comes to nationals, yes, nationals is when all of our teams across the board are trying to win their respective divisions. And so that's when the coaches are, the playing time tightens up a little bit there, and you're playing the players who have earned it throughout the course of the whole season. But that's the struggle and beauty of team sports is it's not always fair, and but in reality, it's a meritocracy when it comes down to it. Because players and coaches play the players that they trust, not the players that they like.
Right.
It's all about, do they trust you to go out and perform? At least that's what we preach for our coaches. I can't speak for every coach, but you want to play the players that you trust, and you want to play the players that have earned it. And you want to have that backup plan in mind of, okay, if this guy is struggling, who's up next? And that's just the dynamic. We don't have many issues with playing time because we try and make all of these things very clear. And because the majority of the season, all of our teams are cycling through all of their guys. Like if you've made a Beta Bay team, you're pretty damn good. We have close to 900 kids that try out for our club, and we take about 200. So we're getting from top to bottom. Our teams are going to be very, very overall like well-rounded, and so all those players can step in and play.
Nice. And speaking of coaching, for you, what's been the most significant lesson you've learned as a coach, and how has it influenced your philosophy, your coaching philosophy?
Can I swear?
This is your podcast. This is your rule. So
it's the philosophy is just give a shit.
Yeah.
It's the coaches that give a shit are the ones that succeed. And it's not just the volleyball stuff. Obviously, you need to train and coach up the system and how you expect your team to perform on the court. But more importantly, it's do you give a shit about your players, and do you show up for them beyond just the X's and O's? Are you making sure they feel valued? Are you making sure they feel like they have a role? Are you making sure that when they're struggling, that you're there to help them and that you're there for them, even when they might be mad at you? There's plenty of times where I, as a coach, know I see a kid struggling. Maybe when I coach younger age groups, crying, and it's probably they're crying because they didn't play.
Right.
They didn't play in a game that they wanted to play in. Right. But if you give a shit, you go up and you have that conversation. You try and help them through that, even when they're probably mad at you. You still have to be the adult in the room, and so that's the easiest overarching philosophy.
All right, excellent. So I had a prior guest on, Taylor Hammond, who at Stanford, and he asked try to get a question or two from people, but he had some things to say about you. He said, "Matt's one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. He's got a business venture and everything around volleyball. I'm not quite sure how he does it. 2 young kids, multiple businesses he runs, social media, but he never looks stressed and somehow looks under 25."
Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate you.
And then he also said, he had a fun fact about it. He said the fun thing about Matt is he is really superstitious. So if his team wins, he's going to do the same thing no matter what the next day. And he'd love to know your and Ariel's social media plan, but he said you won't tell them.
That's not true. We've tried to get Taylor. We've talked to Taylor about social media so much, and Taylor's like the just prototype Travis Turner Balboa guy, which I love. I love Travis from Balboa, but Taylor's like he coached with Travis for a while, so he's got a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
But he's such a curmudgeon on social media. He's like, no, I gotta plan it all. Like I gotta figure out what's my thing. I was like, dude, just start posting.
Right.
That's where recruiting's going. You got to start posting, put yourself out there, and he's doing his thing. But yeah, Taylor is he's a special one. He's in full dad mode right now too. So I know that's the biggest difference, Taylor. You caught me when my children were both in school. If you would have asked Daniel Rasai, who was with me when my children were literal babies, and I was trying to get everything done in between nap time, he would have been like, "No, Matt's a train wreck, actually." So.
And I got another past guest on, Garrett Minyard, who him and his wife Kat run Northeast Volleyball Club out here in Connecticut. He said he ran into you in Washington, and he actually shared that Ariel's dad started that Capitol Hill Classic, which I think is just really cool. But he said, you have a lot of things, like Taylor said, you have a lot of things on your plate. And like them, they've got a small kid. How do you balance the work life between, dad, family, club director, club coach, entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's well timed because I'm about to have to go pick up my children. Speaking of, but this is a good kind of closing point because I think that's one of the things that when I was in college, I love to read. I love to listen to audiobooks. One of the things that I read when I was a senior was a book basically about life design. So you look at your life and kind of how you want to map it out. And I always have known I wanted to be a dad, and I want to be very present in my kid's life and be a part of that, just because that's what my parents did, and I was very lucky in that. And what I kind of thought about was I thought being a club director would allow me to do that at the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And that has been the case. Is that I think I've always wanted my kids to be a part of what I do, and so they have grown up in the gym. Ariel, my wife, was a big proponent of called the baby on benches rule of like letting kids be with their parents because we had so many things ourselves and some of our coaches who deal with it where you want to make it as easy as possible for them to have their kids and be there and be a part of it because those amazing coaches, they need the support, but they also just need the flexibility to be a parent at the same time. And I think that's been something that we have been very lucky with, and that I specifically have looked for is to involve my kids in what I do. And they come to Orlando every year. It's a huge vacation for them.
Nice.
They go to Capitol Hill every year, and they get to run around and see Bon Bon running the show. I think for them, like convention centers are just like big parks. They think it's just like another playground.
Yeah.
And they aren't sick of volleyball or anything like that. They just know that like that's just what we do,
That's
and they
life.
get to come be a part of it. Yeah, it's just that's the life that they lead. And I grew up in the basketball gym.
Right.
And my wife Ariel grew up in literally the same thing that we're doing now, the volleyball gym and convention centers. Her family vacation was literally the AVCA convention every year in December. So yeah, just involving them and just making sure that they see what you do and that they are a part of it. And it's not something where we disappear and they're not there. It's something that we want them to be engaged with and to do. I think we've gotten very lucky that we get supported by the families in our club that they want to help out whenever our girls are around. They're trying to entertain them. If there's a day where we don't have a babysitter for practice and them being in the gym, like they've grown up seeing our coaches be best friends. They've grown up seeing, like I literally yesterday, my latest victim on the baby court was a kid named Peter Chris who played for our club and just graduated. He's going to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
But he is my daughter's literal favorite person on earth. She would always go and he's on mommy's team, and he just always was so kind to her, and they've grown up with these amazing older brothers essentially. that they get to have that be a part of their life and their upbringing, that I think that will stick with them for a long time. So it's less about balancing, and it's more about just integrating them into what we do.
All right. Well, hey, Matt, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. But before I let you go, like with past guests, I look for you to recommend somebody in your volleyball circle that has a good story that we should get them on and share.
Yeah, I think so. The person I steal from the most is actually if you've watched our coaches group chat podcast, is Chad Gordon. I think Chad is one of the most unique people in the volleyball world. He's a super high level coach. He was the AVCA Boys Club Coach of the Year, but he's also a very, very astute student of the game. Like statistically, he has gone to the deepest edges of the sport, from trying to find any level of statistical analysis that would help make literally our club teams better. Yeah. But he does that. He did that at Illinois with Kevin Hamley, and now he has a business venture. He's doing a computer vision for Volley Station, which is a big company out of Poland. But he's got a really interesting both business and coaching and just volleyball lifestyle component to him. And then my other favorite person. Have you interviewed Dustin yet?
I have had Dustin on, and it was a wonderful conversation.
Good,
I had
good.
He 2 hours. The guy just talked, and I loved it.
Yep. Have you had Reid Pretty?
I have not.
Okay, I love Reid's another great one that I gotten to know over the past year. Obviously an amazing athlete and player, indoor, beach. But he started his own club for his son. He's doing one team, but he runs basically a fitness company that's beach volleyball kind of themed. It's called In Sand. So he's got some really cool stories, a really, really sharp mind, and just a great, he's a wordsmith. So he's much more well-spoken than I am. He's a great one.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, again, thank you so much. Wonderful to meet you, and have an enjoyable rest of your summer.
Thank you, Barry. Appreciate it. And appreciate all you're doing, man.